In the ever-evolving landscape of video game development, few stories capture the imagination quite like the rise of Grinding Gear Games. Picture this, a small group of dedicated gamers in New Zealand, working from a garage, daring to compete with industry giants in creating the next great action role-playing game. This isn't just another success story, it's a testament to the power of passion, perseverance, and community in modern game development. The gaming industry in 2006 looked vastly different from today. Major studios dominated the market, free-to-play games were often synonymous with poor quality, and New Zealand wasn't exactly known as a gaming industry hub. Yet, it was in this environment that Grinding Gear Games would plant the seeds of what would become one of the most respected names in gaming. What makes their story particularly compelling is not just their success, but how they achieved it. In an era where many games prioritized quick profits over player satisfaction, GGG took the road less traveled. They committed to creating a game that they themselves would want to play, one that would respect players' intelligence and time, while offering unprecedented depth and complexity. The story begins with four friends: Chris Wilson, Jonathan Rogers, Erik Olofsson, and Brian Weissman. Each brought unique expertise to the table, but more importantly, they shared a common frustration with the state of ARPGs in the mid-2000s. Chris Wilson, working in the financial sector at the time, had a particular passion for game economies and complex systems. Jonathan Rogers brought technical expertise from his background in software development, while Erik Olofsson contributed artistic vision and design sensibilities. Brian Weissman was a renowned Magic: The Gathering player, known for creating the deck control archetype. His understanding of complex game systems would help shape Path of Exile's intricate character customization. The early days were far from glamorous. Operating from Chris Wilson's garage, the team initially funded the project with their personal savings. They worked long hours, often juggling day jobs while developing their game at night. The choice of New Zealand as their base of operations, while logical for the founders, presented unique challenges. The country's geographical isolation meant limited access to industry networks, conferences, and potential investors. Finding initial funding proved to be a monumental challenge. Traditional investors were skeptical of backing a game studio from New Zealand, especially one planning to create a complex ARPG, a genre dominated by established names like Blizzard Entertainment. The team had to get creative with their fundraising, eventually turning to their future player base for support through a unique supporter pack system that would later become one of their hallmarks. The founding team's background in hardcore gaming proved invaluable. They weren't just developers, they were passionate ARPG players who understood exactly what the genre was missing. Chris Wilson's experience with trading card games influenced their approach to item rarity and economy design. Jonathan's programming expertise allowed them to tackle technical challenges that would have deterred many others. Erik's artistic direction helped establish the dark, gritty aesthetic that would become synonymous with Path of Exile. Early hiring decisions were crucial. They carefully selected developers who shared their vision, often taking significant pay cuts to join. This approach established a culture focused on quality and player satisfaction over quick profits. The New Zealand development environment offered unexpected advantages. Isolation meant fewer distractions, while Auckland's growing tech scene provided talented developers eager to work on something revolutionary. Government support through grants and initiatives also helped sustain the project in its early stages. The development of Path of Exile 1 game was a monumental undertaking that spanned nearly 7 years from concept to release. While Diablo 2 served as an initial inspiration, the team quickly realized they needed to forge their own path. They identified key areas where existing ARPGs fell short: character customization, item economy, and endgame content. The skill gem system, now considered one of Path of Exile's most innovative features, went through numerous iterations. Initially conceived as a simple socket system, it evolved into something far more complex. The team spent countless hours refining the interaction between support gems and active skills, creating a system that offered unprecedented build diversity. This wasn't just about creating new skills, it was about giving players the tools to create their own unique combinations and playstyles. The passive skill tree, perhaps the game's most iconic feature, was born from a desire to offer truly meaningful character development choices. The initial design had merely 100 nodes, but it expanded to over 1,300 nodes. Each addition was carefully considered, with the team spending months balancing and rebalancing to ensure that every path through the tree offered viable build options. The complexity of the tree became a symbol of the game's dedication to depth and customization. Technical challenges abounded during development. The team had to create their own game engine from scratch, as existing solutions couldn't handle their ambitious vision. This decision, while incredibly time-consuming, gave them complete control over performance optimization and feature implementation. They developed proprietary tools for content creation, including a sophisticated level generation system that would ensure maps remained interesting even after thousands of runs. The item system was another area where GGG sought to innovate. Rather than following the traditional model of gear progression, they created a complex crafting system involving currency items that doubled as crafting materials. This system was designed to create a more engaging economy, where even low-level items could have value depending on their implicit and explicit modifiers. Community involvement during development was unprecedented. The team implemented an extensive closed beta testing program, carefully selecting players who could provide meaningful feedback. They established regular communication channels through forums and developer diaries, sharing their vision and adapting based on player input. This transparency would become a hallmark of GGG's development philosophy. The art direction posed its own challenges. Creating a dark, gothic atmosphere required careful consideration of every visual element. The team spent months perfecting the lighting system, character animations, and environmental effects. They wanted players to feel the weight and impact of every action, leading to countless iterations of combat animations and effects. Testing and balance became increasingly complex as development progressed. With millions of possible build combinations, ensuring game balance without stifling creativity proved challenging. The team developed sophisticated internal tools to simulate different builds and scenarios, but ultimately relied heavily on player feedback to fine-tune the experience. At the heart of Path of Exile's success lies a robust technical infrastructure that sets it apart from other online ARPGs. GGG's decision to develop their own game engine rather than licensing existing technology proved crucial for implementing their unique vision. This proprietary engine, developed over years of iteration, allows for the complex calculations needed for PoE's intricate combat and crafting systems. The server architecture represents another triumph of innovation. GGG implemented a lockstep synchronization mode, virtually eliminating the desync issues that plagued many online ARPGs. This technical solution required significant investment, but dramatically improved the player experience, particularly in high-stakes hardcore leagues where death is permanent. Their patch deployment system deserves special mention. GGG pioneered a content delivery system that allows for minimal downtime during updates. The mini-patch system enables them to deploy hotfixes and small updates without requiring players to download entire game files, significantly reducing maintenance windows and improving the player experience. When Path of Exile entered open beta on January 23, 2013, the response was overwhelming. The servers, despite extensive preparation, struggled to handle the influx of players. Within 24 hours, over 100,000 players had created accounts, far exceeding GGG's expectations. The team worked around the clock to scale their infrastructure, showing their commitment to providing a stable playing experience. Critical reception was overwhelmingly positive. Major gaming publications praised the game's depth and complexity. PC Gamer awarded it a 91/100, calling it an instant classic in the ARPG genre. IGN gave it a 9.0/10, highlighting its innovative systems and free-to-play model. The game's Metacritic score settled at 86, an impressive achievement for a debut title from an independent studio. The player base grew rapidly, driven largely by word-of-mouth recommendations. The complexity that might have scared away casual players became a major selling point for hardcore ARPG fans. Forums and Reddit communities dedicated to Path of Exile exploded with activity as players shared builds, trading tips, and theory-crafted new ways to tackle the game's challenges. The post-launch evolution of Path of Exile demonstrated GGG's commitment to continuous improvement and innovation. The implementation of the League system became a game-changer for the ARPG genre. Every 3 months, new leagues would introduce fresh mechanics, keeping the game exciting for veterans while attracting returning players. The game's evolution can be traced through several groundbreaking expansions. In 2014, the Forsaken Masters expansion revolutionized the game by introducing the hideout system and master crafting. This addition gave players their own customizable space in the game world while adding sophisticated crafting options through various NPCs. Players could now learn powerful crafting techniques, adding another layer of progression beyond simple character leveling. The Awakening, released in 2015, marked another significant milestone with the introduction of Act 4. This expansion didn't just add content, it fundamentally altered the game's progression system. The passive skill tree underwent a major renovation with the addition of jewel sockets, creating even more opportunities for character customization and build diversity. Perhaps one of the most transformative updates came in 2016 with Atlas of Worlds. This expansion completely reimagined the endgame experience by introducing the Atlas system, a visual representation of endgame progression that gave players clear goals and direction in their post-campaign journey. The system added strategic depth to map running, allowing players to shape their endgame experience in meaningful ways. The following year, War for the Atlas built upon this foundation by introducing the Elder and Shaper influences. This created a dynamic struggle that players could influence through their mapping choices, adding another layer of strategy to the endgame experience. The game's monetization strategy became legendary within the industry for its ethical approach. Instead of implementing pay-to-win mechanics, GGG focused on cosmetic microtransactions and convenience features. Supporter packs offered excellent value while allowing players to show their appreciation for the game's development. This approach built unprecedented trust within the community, proving that respecting players could be more profitable than exploitative practices. Community engagement became a cornerstone of GGG's development philosophy. The team maintained regular communication through developer Q&A sessions and detailed development manifestos. They actively participated in community discussions on platforms like Reddit, responding quickly to concerns and explaining their design decisions through comprehensive balance manifestos. In the crowded ARPG market, Path of Exile has managed to carve out a unique position. While Diablo series focused on accessibility and Lost Ark emphasized MMO elements, PoE doubled down on complexity and depth. This differentiation proved crucial for attracting hardcore ARPG enthusiasts who felt underserved by mainstream offerings. The game's success against larger competitors came from several key differentiators: deeper character customization, more complex itemization, regular content updates, community-focused development, and ethical monetization. Even when facing direct competition from major releases like Diablo 3 and Lost Ark, PoE maintained its player base through consistent updates and community engagement. The game's unique approach to seasonal content through leagues kept players engaged, while competitors struggled with player retention between major expansions. The studio's growth strategy has been remarkably measured and strategic. The 2018 acquisition by Tencent marked a major milestone, but GGG maintained operational independence. This partnership provided resources for expansion while allowing the studio to preserve its development philosophy and community-first approach. Revenue growth has been consistent, with the company seeing year-over-year increases in both player numbers and revenue. The success of their supporter pack model proved that players will financially support developers who respect their audience and provide genuine value. Global expansion required careful consideration of different markets' needs. GGG established local publishing partnerships in key regions like China and Korea, adapting their approach to each market while maintaining the core game experience. The introduction of language support for multiple regions helped broaden the game's appeal without compromising its fundamental complexity. The decision to develop Path of Exile 2 emerged from a complex web of technical necessities and creative ambitions. As Path of Exile 1 continued to grow, the limitations of its original engine became increasingly apparent. Performance optimization grew more challenging with each update, and the aging code architecture began restricting the implementation of new features. The team found themselves unable to fully utilize modern graphics capabilities, limiting their artistic vision. Community feedback played a crucial role in shaping the direction of the sequel. Players had long expressed desire for improved animations and character models, while the development team recognized the need for a fresh narrative start. The original game's tutorial systems, while functional, needed a complete overhaul to better accommodate new players without sacrificing the depth that veterans cherished. The development of Path of Exile 2 presented unprecedented challenges for the studio. Managing two games simultaneously required careful resource allocation and strategic planning. The team's vision of having both games share endgame content was ambitious, requiring sophisticated technical solutions to ensure seamless integration. To meet these challenges, Grinding Gear Games underwent significant expansion. The studio brought in specialized animation teams to create more fluid and realistic character movements. Narrative designers joined the team to craft a compelling new story that would respect the original's lore while pushing the narrative forward. The technical team grew substantially to handle the development of the new engine, while separate teams were established to maintain Path of Exile 1 and develop its successor. ExileCon 2019 marked a historic moment for the franchise with the announcement of Path of Exile 2. The presentation showcased a completely revamped graphics engine that brought the dark world of Rayclast to life with unprecedented detail. Character models and animations displayed remarkable improvements, while the streamlined gem system promised to maintain depth while reducing unnecessary complexity. The new campaign demonstrated enhanced storytelling capabilities, with improved physics and environmental interactions that made the world feel more alive than ever. The December 6, 2024 early access launch of Path of Exile 2 marked an exciting new chapter in the ARPG genre. Grinding Gear Games made the strategic decision to release the game in early access, planning for at least a 6-month period to gather player feedback and polish the experience to meet their exacting standards. This approach aligned perfectly with their community-focused development philosophy, allowing players to actively participate in the game's final stages of development. During the early access period, players gained access to a substantial portion of the planned content, including several of the new Ascendancy classes and the first few acts of the campaign. GGG maintained their trademark transparency by publishing a detailed early access FAQ outlining their development roadmap and explaining how player feedback would shape the game's evolution during this crucial period. Even in its early access state, the revamped engine showcased impressive visual fidelity that transformed the grim world of Rayclast into a haunting masterpiece of dark fantasy. Every environment, from dank dungeons to sprawling cities, demonstrated unprecedented attention to detail, with dynamic lighting and weather systems creating an immersive atmosphere previously unseen in the genre. The combat system, though still being refined through player feedback, already showed tremendous promise. Animations became more fluid and impactful, with each skill feeling weightier and more satisfying to use. The initial selection of ascendancy classes introduced novel mechanics that expanded the possibilities for character building, with GGG promising more classes to be released throughout the early access period. The reimagined skill system proved to be a masterclass in game design evolution, even in its preliminary state. Rather than completely abandoning the beloved skill gem system, GGG refined it to eliminate tedious aspects while preserving the depth that hardcore players cherished. The development team actively solicited community feedback on these changes, demonstrating their commitment to getting these core systems right before the full release. Path of Exile 2's narrative achievements particularly stood out, with the early access version offering the first few chapters of what promised to be an epic story. Set 2 decades after the events of the original game, the narrative weaved a complex tale of consequences and redemption. The initial story chapters featured professional voice acting, enhanced cutscenes, and dynamic narrative choices, with GGG promising even more narrative content throughout the early access period. The integration between Path of Exile 1 and 2 during early access was handled with careful consideration. While some features were still being implemented, players could already experience how both games would share certain endgame systems. GGG provided clear communication about which features would be available during early access and their plans for expanding this integration over time. The early access launch garnered significant attention from both the gaming media and the ARPG community. Players praised the transparent development approach and the solid foundation of systems already in place, while providing valuable feedback for further improvements. The development team maintained an active presence on forums and social media, engaging with player feedback and regularly updating the community on implementation plans for suggested changes. The decision to launch Path of Exile 2 through early access further cemented Grinding Gear Games' reputation for innovative development approaches. While many large studios shy away from early access for major releases, GGG embraced it as an opportunity to perfect their game alongside their community. This move set a new precedent for how established studios could utilize early access to deliver better games through direct player collaboration. Their influence on the gaming industry extends far beyond development methodologies. GGG's approach to free-to-play monetization created a new paradigm that challenged traditional industry assumptions. The studio maintained this ethical stance even during early access, ensuring that any purchases made during this period would carry forward to the full release, further building trust with their community. The studio's communication style during the early access period set new standards for transparency in game development. Daily developer updates, detailed patch notes, and regular community roundtables showed other developers how to maintain meaningful dialogue with players during crucial development phases. This level of openness helped transform potential criticism into constructive feedback, creating a collaborative atmosphere that benefited both developers and players. The impact on New Zealand's gaming industry proved particularly significant. The country, once peripheral to the gaming world, emerged as a serious contender in game development. GGG's success attracted international talent and investment, leading to the establishment of new studios and educational programs focused on game development. The government even began offering increased support for gaming initiatives, recognizing the industry's potential for economic growth. Technical innovations pioneered by GGG continue to influence the broader ARPG genre. Their sophisticated approach to random level generation, complex character customization systems, and innovative endgame content inspired numerous other developers. The success of their seasonal league system, combined with the early access approach for Path of Exile 2, created a new hybrid model for game development and content delivery that other studios began to emulate. GGG's office culture in New Zealand reflects their broader philosophy of sustainable development and employee well-being. The studio prioritizes work-life balance, understanding that happy developers create better games. This approach has helped them attract and retain top talent despite competition from larger international studios. Their hiring philosophy focuses on finding passionate gamers who can also be excellent developers. Many team members were active PoE players before joining the company, bringing deep understanding of the game's systems to their roles. This connection to the player experience influences development decisions at every level. The COVID-19 pandemic led to adaptations in their work structure, with the team successfully transitioning to a hybrid work model. This flexibility demonstrated their ability to maintain productivity and community engagement even during challenging circumstances. Looking beyond the early access phase of Path of Exile 2, Grinding Gear Games has outlined an ambitious vision for the future. Their immediate focus remains on gathering and implementing player feedback, with regular updates planned throughout the early access period. The development team has established a clear roadmap for feature implementation, including additional ascendancy classes, endgame systems, and narrative content. The studio's commitment to supporting both Path of Exile 1 and 2 demonstrates their long-term thinking. Rather than abandoning their original player base, they've created a unique ecosystem where both games can thrive. This approach ensures that players can choose their preferred experience while still participating in the same community and economy. GGG's growing team continues to explore new possibilities within the ARPG genre. While their primary focus remains on perfecting Path of Exile 2 through the early access period, they've hinted at experimental features and content that could push the boundaries of what's possible in the genre. Their expanded development capabilities, thanks to successful growth and strategic partnerships, position them to tackle increasingly ambitious projects. The role of community feedback remains paramount in their development philosophy. During early access and beyond, player input drives many of their decisions, from major system overhauls to minor quality-of-life improvements. This approach has proven so successful that they're implementing new ways to gather and process player feedback, including advanced analytics tools and regular community summits. The story of Grinding Gear Games represents more than just another successful game studio. It embodies the transformative power of unwavering vision, community engagement, and adaptive development strategies. From their humble beginnings in a New Zealand garage to launching one of the most anticipated ARPG sequels through early access, their journey demonstrates how staying true to core principles while embracing innovation can lead to extraordinary success. The decision to launch Path of Exile 2 through early access exemplifies their commitment to community-driven development. This approach, while unconventional for a studio of their size, reflects their understanding that the best games are created through collaboration between developers and players. The minimum 6-month early access period shows their dedication to getting things right, rather than rushing to meet arbitrary deadlines. Both Path of Exile 1 and 2 stand as testaments to what can be achieved when developers truly understand and respect their audience. The original game revolutionized free-to-play monetization and proved that complex, deep gameplay could succeed in a market often dominated by simpler experiences. Now, Path of Exile 2's early access launch is setting new standards for how established studios can involve their community in the development process. The impact of Grinding Gear Games extends far beyond their games. They've influenced how studios communicate with players, approach monetization, and handle ongoing development. Their success has helped establish New Zealand as a significant player in the global gaming industry, inspiring a new generation of developers and studios. Looking forward, the future appears incredibly bright for GGG. The early access period for Path of Exile 2 represents not just a launch strategy, but a commitment to their community-first approach. As they continue to gather feedback and refine their newest creation, they're simultaneously laying the groundwork for future innovations in the ARPG genre. For newcomers to Path of Exile, there's never been a more exciting time to join the community. Whether diving into the refined systems of the original game or experiencing the evolution of the franchise through Path of Exile 2's early access, players will find a deep, rewarding experience backed by one of gaming's most dedicated development teams. The legacy of Grinding Gear Games continues to evolve, shaped by their unique approach to game development and unwavering commitment to their community. As Path of Exile 2 progresses through early access and beyond, one thing remains clear. This is a studio that hasn't forgotten its roots while reaching for new heights. For those who haven't yet experienced Path of Exile, now is the perfect time to become part of this growing community. Whether you choose to start with the original game or join the early access journey of Path of Exile 2, you'll be participating in one of gaming's most remarkable success stories. Remember to share your own Path of Exile experiences in the comments below. Are you excited about Path of Exile 2's early access? What features are you most looking forward to? Join the discussion and become part of this evolving story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on more gaming history and analysis. Until next time, Exiles, and remember, in Rayclast, every end is just a new beginning.